case of anything, feel free to also share it with us. So welcome again. So my name is Anne Kitoni. I work as the migration expert at Seedstars, and I have the privilege and honor to be the moderator for today, and we'll be sharing the different sessions for this day. So what we want to do is to have a celebration of what the rights of migrants and also the employment migrant rights, and have a discussion on why migration topic should be top on the agenda. So that's just the basis of what we're doing, why we're doing. As Seedstars, we have a mandate, or we have an agenda to continue to push the migration agenda across the world. We do work with different regions or in different regions of the world, and we are very, very pleased to host the inaugural Seedstars International Migration Day. So I will be your host. Well, hello there. So now, I will be introducing one of the co-founders of Seedstars. So Alize is the co-founder and co-CEO of Seedstars. She sits on several boards of companies and foundations, and is also a member of the Swiss Innovation Council. She was nominated Social Entrepreneur, Forbes 30 Under 30, Innovation Fellow, Wired UK, Europe's most influential women in the startup and venture capital space, and one of 29 powerful women by Refinery 29. So Alize, you're most welcome to the International Migrants Day. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It's a real honor to be here today to represent this day and participate in trying to build awareness and potential policies, activities that have to continue and be pushed across the globe, because migration is indeed a very important topic at Seedstars. Exactly 10 years ago, we started the company, and at that time, what we believed to be our mission was how could we support, elevate the lives of people around the world, knowing that we could, through technology, entrepreneurship, be able to give them the right tools to do so. So ultimately for us, that leading indicator was, could we support in building dignified jobs around the world? And in dignified job, there is the word dignified. And in many ways, it brings us back to the importance of understanding the topic of migration, because migration is a potent tool for economic development and is a potent tool to potentially reduce and eliminate poverty around the world, but forced migration is not. And as Seedstars was growing its antennas, its network across the globe, what we saw related to climate change or related to political instability was we needed to figure out, through the support of entrepreneurs, through the support of future generation of entrepreneurs, how could we build a safe, secure, and thriving local ecosystem for these talents across the world. So there's a lot. Governance has to be rethought. And I think we're in a really interesting time right now, because there's unbelievable brain power that is coming to this problem. And today you will meet with our panelists that are coming across different public and private initiatives to really rethink the way we govern the conversations around migration. Who do we involve in these conversations, and how can we build these initiatives at a global scale? Because it is becoming everyone's issue. It is a global issue, and it is one that we all should take part of. So again, I mean, I'm here to learn also from our panelists. And thank you for taking the time to listen and hopefully discuss with us, because there is so much that we need to better understand from the larger ecosystem. And here listening with us today are entrepreneurs, investors, people from public and private agencies that we need to learn from. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you very much, Alize. And she is one of the co-founders and has given us the strategic approach of why Seedstars is moving more into the migration space. And we really look forward to having these discussions in this forum as well. So I know that many of us might have interacted with the field of migration before, and others might be interacting with it just briefly in the near future or are planning to do so. In this forum, we have researchers, we have students who are also in the academic space, we have migration practitioners as well. And so we thought that as we begin this forum, it would be good to have a basic understanding of what is migration, who is a migrant, and that's the discussion we'll be continuing along. So what is the history of International Migrants Day? So in the year 1990, this is almost 33 years ago, on 18th December, which is the day we are marking today, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution on International Convention on the Protection of Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. This was actually a landmark resolution because before then, the term migrant worker was not known or was not popularly used, and even members of their families. Why? Because many migrants migrate in order to A, support their families, or two, migrate together with their families. And there was no convention or there was no legal framework that supported any kind of migrant worker rights officially, together with the rights of their families. This would include residency rights, this would include visa policies and economic opportunities, even for members of their families. So this was a landmark project that was done, and a framework was put along in the 1990 18th December adoption. And from that time, the term migrant worker was accepted and we're able to use it to date. Then in the year 2000, International Migrants Day was officially marked. And this was from another United Nations General Assembly that was held on 4th December. And on that General Assembly, they proclaimed 18th December International Migrants Day, taking into account the large and increasing number of migrants in the world. Because by this time, more people were moving. One of the key things that we realize is that migration is not necessarily a wrong thing. Everybody has to move one reason or another, but we just are promoting the dignified migration of all, together with the migrant workers as well. And then in 2023, I know we have come late to the party, but Seedstars is hosting its inaugural celebration of International Migrants Day. And we are planning to host many, many more in the future as well. So the question is, who is a migrant? Sometimes we hear of the term migrant and we wonder who exactly fits into this connotation or who fits into this definition of a migrant. Of interesting to note is that there is no direct or specific definition of a migrant. And so different organizations and different forums have set up their own individual definitions. However, we are bound to some of the policies. And so we are trying to use the IOM definition, which calls it an umbrella term, not defined under international law, which is very important. And it means that a person who moves away from his or her place of usual residence, which is either locally or internationally, for either temporal basis or permanent. So this means if you have moved from your usual place of residence, this could be because of a flood, this could be because of conflict or war, or this could be because of economic opportunities. As long as you've moved from your usual place of residence, you are considered a migrant. Of interest to note is that even if you've moved from the rural area to the urban areas, rural to urban migration is also considered migration. So you are still a migrant. And I know that many of us are migrants in one way or another. The term also defines migrant workers, including smuggled migrants and those whose status or means of movement are not specifically defined. So when we talk about smuggled migrants, these are migrants who move, especially across borders, and they do this in terms of voluntary basis. They're looking for opportunities and they unfortunately don't choose the right points of entry. So they use irregular entry, but are still considered migrant workers. So when we look at migrants, we're looking at those people who have moved for any of the reasons that we'll talk about in the next slide, but we're also looking at people who are considered migrant workers as well. So why do people migrate? We have said that migration is considered a good thing, but migration can also be considered irregular in terms of irregular entry or exit from a country. And so why do people migrate? So when we look at reasons for migration, there are two sides to the story. There are push factors and pull factors. If you look at the word push and pull, it means that there could be something that is pushing someone away from their usual place of residence, or there could be something that is pulling someone to another location. So when we look at the push factors, we're looking at obstacles which cause people to leave. This includes famine, this includes conflict, this includes natural disaster. This is when you do not consider your usual place of residence habitable, and for that reason, you leave for the safety of yourself and your family members, or for better economic opportunities as well. But when you look at pull factors, these are factors that encourage movement of people. Maybe you want to travel or you want to move to a different location for better social amenities, say education for your children, better healthcare, better access to any kind of infrastructure. That is considered a pull factor. So people move for different reasons. It could be a push factor or a pull factor, but all are challenges or opportunities according to economic, social, cultural, and environmental and political reasons. That is reasons why people move globally. So what are some of the key migration routes in the world? As we know, people move across regions every time. Right now, the airports are full, people are on the road, people are moving from one region to another, one country to another, and even between countries as well, or within countries. But we will look and just highlight key migration routes across the world. Something to note, and this is interesting, and we'll talk about it in the trends, is that India is still the leading country of origin for migrants. So that's why you see in the Asia route, there's a lot of movement across India and that particular route. Europe is a top destination country that is hosting a lot of migrants. And that's why you see a lot of the arrows, either from Africa or from Asia, are moving into Europe. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is one of the receiving countries that is also very strong with migrants, and we'll look at the trends for that. And so we see a lot of migration on that route. And also the general UAE region and the general MENA region, we see a lot of migration route there. Something to note is that North America is also a high recipient of migrants, and that's why you see from South America, there is another migration route there. So these are just the major 5 migration routes across the world. However, people are moving consistently and constantly across the world in different regions altogether. And in Africa, there is another migration route that is very, very prominent that goes down all the way to South Africa as well. So these are the 5 key migration routes across the world. But as we mentioned, they could continually increase based on trends and preferences by the migrants. So what are some of the global migration trends? So 281 million live outside their country of origin. So the number of international migrants grew to 281 million in 2020, meaning that 3.6% of the world people live outside their country of birth that year. This is as per the World Migration Report of 2022. Now, this means that for everyone who is moving, 3.6% of the world's population is included in that figure. So as we can tell, migration is a key topic across the world. That is something that we want to continue discussing, is something that we want to continue to push because the numbers keep increasing globally. If this was the figure in 281 was a figure in 2020, and we know now in 2023, the figure could have actually come up because of the crisis between Israel and also and the Hamas, and also the consistent or the continued fighting in Ukraine and Russia as well. So these numbers continue to grow, and migration continues to be a topic across the world. Of interest to note is that over 172 million originate from Europe and Asia, and then US, Germany, and Saudi host the most migrants. And interest also is that 93% of the UAE population are international migrants. So we're saying these are some of the trends that continue to be seen across the world with regards to migration. So what we're saying is that a lot of the UAE population is actually the largest, 93% are migrants. So even as you consider the term migrant workers, there are countries, there are regions that are heavily relying on that population. And as Seedstars, what are we doing as part of migration programming? So we have we have 5 major migration programs that are ongoing, and allow me just to share on this. So the first is the Crialo FinTech Fund Accelerator. So we have different programs. We have acceleration programs, we have growth programs, and we will continue to discuss them as well. So here we have 10 fintechs, which are small and medium businesses in Latin America. We are specifically focusing on Peru, Colombia, and Chile. And then we also have an acceleration and investment program for 7 months. And this particular program will end, and actually is ending now in December 2023. We also have the CAF program, and CAF is actually the Development Bank of Latin America. We are partnering with them. And in this particular financial lab, we have 5 startups from Latin America. It's an accelerator program as well, running for 10 months, ending in June. And then we have the Tetra Pak Boot Camp and Acceleration program. And this runs in Latin America as well. It's also an accelerator program and is also running for 10 months. And we have the IOE Fourth Migration Challenge. And this particular program is designed to help either fintechs, agritechs, or insurtechs to be able to support migrants and provide products for them. And this program is supporting 5 startups in Latin America. It's also an accelerator program, and it's running for 10 months up to June 2024. And also, we have the FI1 program, which is the financial inclusion for women affected by migration, which is actually a gender-based financial inclusion program. And this has 34 startups running in Asia, Middle East, North Africa, and Sub-Sahara. It is a growth program, and it's also running for 12 months. So as Seedstars, we have been busy, and we continue to push the migration agenda across the world. We work in different regions, and as you can see, we are hosting different migration programs globally. So now we join into the panel discussion, and the first is on why migration should be at the top of the agenda. And allow me just to introduce who will be speaking to us in this panel. So the moderator of this panel will be Jamin Mwendanu, and he is my colleague. He's a senior advocacy manager at IRC, and he's also a migration expert in residence for Africa in the FI1 program, which is the financial inclusion for women affected by migration. And in this panel, we also have Alicia Sonson, who is a regional lead for MENA at Village Capital, and they do have an excellent report as to the state of migration globally. We have Mirella Stoya, who is the co-lead labor migration portfolio at International Organization of Employers, or IOE. We have Carlos Sanguiniteni, apologies if I missed it, multilateral banking and private sector advisor at IOM, and Melissa Jones, senior development advisor, UNHCR, Regional Bureau for the Americas. So welcome all. I hand over to the moderator, Jamil.
Thank you very much, Anne, for that session. I'm very happy and eager, looking forward to this particular panel session, where we can be able to dive further to ask the question, why migration? And I wish all of us happy International Migrants Day, even as we delve into the challenges, solutions, and how best we can be able to deal with this particular issue of migrants. How best can we be able to ensure that the migrants are well included within the societies where we live and through the programs that we have. So we'll have a brief session with the panelists to be able to share with us various perspectives on this particular subject matter. And I hope then we will equally be able to have a Q&A session where we can also hear from other participants some of the clarifications that they could be seeking. So to begin us in this particular panel session, we will begin by hearing from Carlos, and Carlos, Anne mentions that we have 281 million migrants across the globe, and so one of the very first thing, and based on what we have seen in the last decade and the growth of the number of migrants, some of them forced migrants, the question would be, what are the challenges that we are actually seeing in this particular field of migration, either through our programs or through the work that we work? What are we seeing actually from the IOM lenses? You are muted, Carlos.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and thank you for Seedstars for this opportunity. I am right now in Panama, in Latin America. And let me tell you that in the last years, there has been a very, very profound process, migration process here in Latin America. This process was originated with the Venezuelan situation. And I've been working for the last years in this issue. And we could summarize most of the diagnostics and most of the challenges of migration all across the world with some of the aspects that the Venezuelan situation exemplifies. For example, on first hand, the Venezuelan situation showed that migration occurred in very large numbers within a very short period of time. This is always a challenge for migration currents. And there is a very particular aspect of Venezuelan situation that migration has had a destination to other Latin American countries. This is very important because there is no longer a destination in developed countries like we saw before in the general presentation, like Europe or Germany and the US, but most of the migration, the larger numbers, are concentrated in peer countries, in underdeveloped countries. This is a great challenge for and economic integration in those countries because the local communities, the host communities have the same vulnerabilities as the migrants. This is one of the key aspects of migration. The second one is that the second characteristic is that the Venezuelan mobility is not longer alone in Latin America. There are many, many other organizations from Latin American countries, but also from outside Latin America, like Africa and Asia, that come to Latin America and start a path that could eventually take them to the United States of America in the north. They come south first, and then they start moving up north, trying to get to the US. There is a third aspect, that is that the first country of destination is not these migrants move from one country to another, and sometimes the pathways are very, not only irregular, but very hazardous, very dangerous. Like, for example, we've seen around the world the crossing of the Darien Gap between Colombia and Panama. So if I could summarize all these characteristics in one key challenge, liberties, some conceptual liberties, in saying that that challenge is regularization. Regularization concerning integration, socioeconomic integration in those peer Latin American countries, and regularization in those movements across Latin America and north to the US. We've been working in both. We've been working in both socioeconomic with local host communities, and most recently, since the LA Declaration, we've been working on what we call a Safe Mobility Office that try to offer legal pathways that come away, get migrants away from those irregular and dangerous situations.
Yes, Carlos.
Yes,
So, yes,
just finishing,
yes.
We start Safe Mobility Office. We have 4 now: Colombia, Ecuador, Costa Rica, and Guatemala. And this is a process that is already started.
Thank you very much, Carlos, for that perspective, especially within the Latin America. And I'm certain some of those particular challenges that you mentioned there, also challenges that migrants share across different migration paths that we definitely have. Among the reasons for migration, actually, it's labor. And so people move out looking for opportunities, asking how they can then be able to migrate and access greener pastures out there. And so I would like to hear from Mirela. What are the challenges are we seeing from from the perspective of employers? What are these particular challenges that we are seeing in this particular field of migration?
Thank you very much for the question. Hello to everyone. Thank you, Seedstars, for organizing today's event. So from my side, from the IOE side, what I can say is that 4 in 5 employers worldwide report difficulties in filling skills gaps. So employers worldwide, not only in Europe, but in particular in countries with a strong demographic decline, consider that labor migration is part of the solution to alleviate the skills gaps and shortages. And besides, of course, investing further efforts into upskillings and reskillings efforts in their domestic workforce. So employers have therefore been advocating for many years and continue to do so for what Carlos also mentioned, predictable, efficient, and effective immigration frameworks to facilitate timely hiring of talent and avoid costly delays. Mm-hmm. So for us, the challenge is to a lack of understanding sometimes between the public discourse and the private needs. We need to increase the spaces where consultations with private sectors are possible. I will stop here for this first question.
Thank you very much, Mirela. I know UNHCR world over has been working with some segments of migrants to be able to see how can they be able to have solutions. And I think over a period of time, and because of the numbers and because of protracted situations, there has been a call to have innovative solutions towards this. And so I'd like to hear from Melissa in terms of what are these innovative solutions that we are actually working on to address the challenges that migrants face, either those that have earlier been mentioned or some other challenges that you're actually seeing.
Thanks so much, Shamin, and thanks also to Seedstars for organizing this. As you mentioned, UNHCR focuses on particular populations, and those are the people who are forced to flee their home because of violence or because of persecution. And so just building on what Carlos was saying, not only do we see large numbers of people moving in short periods of time, but also, as you mentioned, Jameen, they tend to be in protracted situations, meaning that those people who are forced to flee because of conflict, 85% of them are displaced for more than 5 years. And so we see people who have left wars or gang violence in Latin America or political persecution in many regimes across the world. And they aren't able to go back home, not 5 years later, not 20 years later. And so one of the big challenges that we've had as the UN Refugee Agency is that some of the systems that we've set up to provide that immediate life-saving support aren't appropriate, aren't adapted for the situation 5 or 20 years later. And so exactly as Carlos was saying, and Alice actually mentioned it in her introduction, that we need to transition, we need to evolve so that people can have dignified lives, that they can contribute to the thriving local ecosystem, she said. Or Carlos mentioned regularization and integration. That's very much the evolution that UNHCR is hoping to support, these innovative solutions where we can provide that immediate life-saving support, but then immediately, as soon as the people are ready, help them integrate into their new communities so they can both build a better future there, or they could also contribute to the local economy and to the local society. So Mirella mentioned that employers are looking for workers. We have great examples. I mean, I don't know if I can go into an example now or hold on to it later, but there's an excellent example from Mexico where UNHCR has helped support building on the great integrative policies of the government, have developed a program, a local reintegration program, where they helped people who have received refugee status relocate from the southern states where there are fewer economic opportunities into the northern areas. And through relationships with more than 600 employers, help those people find jobs. So we see enormous impact from that work. I can go into that a little bit later. But this is a way in which we, as part of the humanitarian infrastructure, are trying to evolve to help support the integration and longer-term solutions for people who have been forced to flee their homes.
Thank you very much, Melissa, for bringing out the various innovative ways that we are trying to provide and find solutions to these category of migrants who have been forced to flee. I know in trying to look at the challenges that migrants have, or even the opportunities that are there, is more about social, about aspects of economic, and dealing also with the environmental challenges across the world. And I know Village Capital has definitely been doing this. And we would want to now hear Alicia share in terms of what are these particular interventions that you think are not yet developed, and what more collaborations for innovative solutions do you think will need to be worked on so that then migrants can be integrated based on the call that the earlier three speakers have spoken to?
Sure. Thank you so much. Happy to be here, and thank you, Seedstars, for having us. I'm joining you from Village Capital. We're a DC-based global accelerator and investor. We work with impact-focused solutions across the globe. Over the past 2 years, we've been working very closely with many of the folks on the call here today, SDC, the Impact Link Finance Fund, iGravity, on designing an accelerator program for early stage companies that are tackling financial solution and or financial inclusion issues for migrant populations. And in doing this program with our partners, we have found that some of the biggest issues for migrants in terms of access to formal financial services include language and literacy barriers, a lack of trust in the financial system, identity requirements. It's really hard to have the right ID that you need in the country that you've migrated to, and a simple lack of access. All of these issues are exacerbated for women, making it even harder for them to access the formal financial system. And there's a lot of opportunities for tech-based solutions to intervene here. It's not solely in the hands of international organizations or governments to solve some of these problems. The private sector is also able to step in here and offer innovative solutions, or at least ease some of these issues that migrants are facing. We've worked with a number of early stage fintech companies that are solving these challenges. And in terms of collaboration, I think what's needed most is for organizations to first help to fund these early stage projects. The projects that Village Capital works with are all venture backable, profitable ventures on their own. And so finding investments that are for companies that are working to solve these challenges is the first important solution. And then also calling on international organizations to help these companies to pilot their interventions to make sure that they're actually relevant, they're actually serving the populations that they're meaning to serve, and, you know, being products that are actually going to be able to go to market, be profitable, be useful. So those are the main kind of places where we see that the different organizations from all different ways can come together and help support innovation that's driving some of these changes.
Well, thank you, Alicia. Equally on the same question, I would want also to hear from Mirella in terms of what particular areas of intervention do we find that they are developed even as we engage with migrants? And what collaborations and opportunities do you even actually see for more working together with partners?
So perhaps from my side, in order to better explain where I come from. So I represent an employer organization. So it's an umbrella organization of employer and business organizations around the world in more than 150 countries. We have more and also 140, 150 employer organizations that are part of us. And we bring, actually, they are their ears and our eyes on the ground, and we bring actually their voice, what they are seeing on the ground, to the UN discussions in in social and employment related matters. So this is where we come from. And what we do is we advocate in favor of legal pathways, in particular for migrants, that enable them to come into the destination countries or transition countries and have meaningful way to integrate through their labor, through their work in the host societies. And I have a background as a Swiss immigration lawyer, so I have carried out a lot of mandates in my life around migrants that came to work into Switzerland, but also in other countries. And what we have seen repeatedly and for years and years is that there are no legal pathways that allow people to efficiently and effectively move into the countries where they can legally work. So IOE continues to advocate in favor of these legal pathways for migration. And we bring together not only big corporates together with governments and international organizations, but also SMEs. So all kinds of voices from the labor market that care about migration and need migration in order to succeed in their businesses, because they lack workers right now.
Thank you very much, Mirela, on this. And so, listening to the various challenges that exist, and also listening to the sentiments that you have earlier put forth, is that then migration is a huge component that not only one institution can be able to tackle. And so I will hear maybe first from Carlos. What do you think are the very specific then recommendations that then we can be able to make to governments, international organizations, and other stakeholders for us to be able to address these migration challenges? You are muted, Carlos.
Sorry, 2 clicks. Sorry. You just said it, Jamie. This is work not only for one organization. So cooperation is very important. So if I could underline some good practice in America, I would mention the Quito process that where 13 countries participate in the governments of 13 countries participate in technical solutions about the Venezuelan situation. And this is not a political meeting. This is a technical meeting that aims and focuses on we have, in Latin America, we have different kind of governments. Sometimes they change from one side to another, very different ideologies. But nevertheless, this process focused in technical solutions has been great because no political issues have been involved in this process. And that is a great way to collaborate. We as and our colleague Melissa from UNH, we participate as co-leaders in another very large process that is the R4B platform that gets together more than 200 organizations, all of the UN system, but development, multilateral institutions, ONGs from all Latin America, all working together concerning the Venezuelan situation. So this is very important cooperation. And let me show you two examples. The Venezuelans have been very active in organizing themselves in the civil society through ONGs and getting together in all Latin America through large networks, and also in the private sector in organizing their chambers of commerce and enterprises, and then working together in a entrepreneurial network in all Latin in both those aspects, and the social innovation that show this kind of networks is very, very important, and underline again the importance of working and collaborating together more than one institution.
Thank you very much, Carlos, for emphasizing that need of collaborations and that solutions that are actually working are solutions that are bringing everybody on board to be able to find, see what particular solutions can definitely be found. I know, Melissa, we are fresh from the Global Refugee Forum. And I know one of the things that is in the minds of many people in this particular space is about how can we work together, who can do what. So equally, to hear your sentiments on the question that I asked Carlos, what are the specific recommendations that you have for government, international organizations, and other particular stakeholders, again, in addressing these particular challenges that continue to abound year in, year out?
Oh, thanks so much. I think I would have three, and recognizing Alicia's very important point that governments don't have to be responsible for everything, but they do play a critical role. And especially as Morella mentioned, there have to be legal pathways. So the very first thing that I would call on all of us to do is to support the politicians who support inclusive policies. I don't think we can take for granted the great policy environment that we experience in Latin America forever. I think Carlos is exactly right in pointing out the Quito process as an amazing place where politicians from across the region come together and work on very technical challenges with the foundation of open policies, legal stay arrangements, asylum systems, other types of regularization programs that function in the region. But that can be a threat moving forward. And so we need to support these politicians who continually, day in and day out, support and implement these open, inclusive policies. The second one is a little bit also on the practical side. I was mentioning that labor relocation program in Mexico, we have them across the world in different corridors. The transaction costs for every job match is still way too high. It takes a lot of work to get one person into that job. And so as a community, on the employer side, on the international organization side, on the private sector side, we can figure out better ways to reduce those transaction costs. And so there are multiple platforms that are developing. I think the private sector can identify those profiles a little bit better. We can be better at identifying potential candidates. I think there's a lot of goodwill there and a lot of effort. We can just be more efficient in that process. And then the third point I would say, and this is really on everyone to communicate, and that's in a way to balance the narrative. I get personally very frustrated when I hear a lot of conversations about the cost of refugees, the cost of asylum seekers, cost of migrants. And yes, there is a fiscal cost to integrating people into national health system, education, social protection system. But there's a ton of research. It's absolutely established that the contribution is much higher than the cost, especially over time, and especially if people are integrated into the formal labor market. So we really need to balance that narrative in the media, in our personal conversations, in the policy discussions, international fora, and in just I think, along with the general public, because that influences political leadership. And so those are three kind of big things, but I hope we can all contribute a bit to improving the circumstances around all of them.
Thank you, Melissa, for calling for us to have a different lens than appreciating the aspects of the contribution. And that takes me to the next question that I will ask both Alicia and Mirela. That the whole majorly the narrative about migrants has been of the negative. What do you think some of the benefits of migration and the value that migrants bring to the countries and communities, so that then we begin then appreciating from your lens, what do you think is this particular value that they actually bring, so that, as Melissa is saying, we can then be able to take this particular gospel in our various interaction with our particular stakeholder, so that they can be able to see it from our point of view. We could begin with Mirela.
Yes. So from the private sector side, we think that well-governed and regulated migration can be a positive driving force for prosperity and economic development in countries of origin, destination, and transit. The private sector and business, as I previously mentioned, suffers a lot from important skill shortages and skills gaps on the international labor market, not only in Europe, but around the world. And in our opinion, labor mobility is essential to meeting the labor market needs and skills urgently required. Also, keeping in mind the green transition that we're all going through. So the outcomes for us of labor migration should be mutually beneficial. Migrants bring their energies and talents to places that are badly needed. If and when they return home, they bring with them new skills, expertise, and knowledge. And meanwhile, their work abroad contributes to prosperity at home by generating remittances and diversifying household incomes.
Thank you, Mirela, for pointing that again from the employer's perspective on this particular value, the skill set and the balance and the labor. Alicia, from the village capital perspective, what do you think from your interaction again, maybe with migrants? What do you think is the benefit of migration? What is the value that they bring?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I appreciate Mirella and Melissa's responses as to the economic and the job opportunity, the value that migrants bring there. I think from a village capital perspective, diversity breeds innovation, and migrants bring a lot of diversity to economies and to a collaborative environment. And so one of the ways that we see this is I spoke before about the accelerator that we ran with many of the folks on this call today. And of that cohort, many of the founders of these solutions themselves were migrants or had been migrants at some point in their journey. And I think these experiences bring so much value and depth to their understanding of global issues and allow them to concept and to execute on really exciting and innovative ideas that can help make the world a more inclusive place, make financial inclusion more inclusive, and more. So I think that these experiences bring so much value to the way that we innovate into the entrepreneurship space. One example I can give you is one of the founders that we have worked with. His name is Moataz, and he founded an organization called Impouch, which it's a borderless mobile wallet. So they're helping folks all around the world to access and send their money at lower costs. Moataz grew up in Lebanon, and he deeply understands issues around moving money, around living without access to formal financial services, grew up without a bank account, didn't have a bank account till he moved to Turkey for university. And I think people who have lived these experiences are so much better at designing solutions that are going to help others. And that's just one of the many great ways that migrants can spur innovation.
Thank you very much, Alicia, for mentioning the all aspects of technology transfer, knowledge transfer, and again in the space of financial transfer and remittances and the kind of innovations that we are seeing. I would want to give a chance to the questions that the participants are asking. And so I hope they will be able to put them on the chat box. And I'm just seeing that we have one of these particular question. And so definitely this is for you, Alicia. And the question from Sad Khan is, does early stage or pre-stage from Canada be a good for the accelerator? I think this is specific to what you are definitely doing with the accelerator program that you mentioned. Feel free to respond, but then if this is personalized, then they can just be able to understand about how the program is working and how they can then be able to link with the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Sad, I would be really happy to connect. When we end the panel, I'll drop my email into the chat and you can reach out to me. We already ran the accelerator, so the training has already ended, but I'm really happy to connect you to some other folks who are doing training in the space who might be able to be a good fit.
Thank you for Alicia. I'm not able to see another question from the audience, and so I'll come back with the last question from my end, unless another question pops from the audience. The theme of today, International Migrants Day, is Act Today, which then would tell you that we have been postponing solutions. We have been postponing interventions. And that's why the theme is Act Today. And so as we end this particular conversation, I would like to hear from all of you in terms of what is actually our call to action as we continue to promote the benefits and the rights and the freedoms of migrants globally. And we'll begin from Carlos. What exactly is your call to action as we talk about Act Today on this International Migrants Day?
Trade regularization, I would say, in both senses that I've been talking before. In the one that includes social economic integration in the destination countries, and in building legal pathways that get us of those situations.
Thank you very much, Carlos, on that particular call for regularization. Alicia, as we handle socioeconomic and environmental challenges on this day, what's your call to action?
My call to action is to support innovation across the different sectors in which we see it. None of this works if we all are working in silos. Support government initiatives to ease regulations, support international organizations who are working to provide relief, and support entrepreneurs who are designing solutions, whether that be through investment, access to pilot populations, or as consumers. It's important that we all work together and work across different sectors to make solutions actually work.
Thank you very much. Employers have been beneficiaries of the labor mobility, some with challenges here and there. So I know Merila wants to call Act to act today. What should we act today, Merila?
I fully agree with Carlos and Alicia. We need to all collaborate together. This is not a one person's job or one stakeholder's job. We all need to sit at the same table to advocate for predictable, efficient, and effective immigration frameworks that enabled migrants to move safely to the countries of destinations, to find a job, a formal job, and not fall into informality, and to spur innovation. And this goes only when we all work together.
Thank you very much, Mirela. Before you give your final call, Melissa, the there is a question that what initiatives are there to support refugee-led organizations?
Thanks, Jamina, and thanks for that question. I saw it in the chat, and it's an excellent one. UNHCR, along with I would say most of the international organizations, are really focusing on supporting localization in our programming, and that's a way that we specifically on the UNHCR side seek to support and empower refugee-led organizations, not only including them and the advisory role of telling us how we should better support and work with and for them, but also using our money. I mean, we receive funds and we have programming in most of the countries in which refugees are hosted. And so refugee-led organizations, as Alicia mentioned, they know the situation best. They've experienced it, and they know the best solutions. And so that's a major effort on UNHCR's side to program a lot of our own direct implementation support through refugee-led organizations to better meet the needs of the populations we're seeking to serve.
Would you say, Melissa, do we have some of the established policies for inclusion and integration of migrants that are in place or that we need to champion towards based on what you just said?
I would say we all have a role in that, not only our own organizations in the guidance and policymaking internally, but also in advocacy for governments to increase the regularization program, as Carlos was mentioning, or the simplified legal pathways. I added the term simplified to Morella's point because it can be extraordinarily complex to comply with the regulations beyond what most people can manage, much less people who don't have the legal training or native speakers in the countries in which they have arrived. So I don't know if that's where you were going, but that's definitely an area in which I think there's a lot of work to be done to simplify the rules and the processes so that everybody can access them, ideally without needing a lawyer on that side.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I hear that what must not wait is that we need to fix those particular policies of integration and ensure that everybody is on board. I have seen a few questions that have emerged, but we are top of the hour. We will then attempt to answer them at the chat box, so that then we can be able to seed for the next panel that is also coming to share with us particular valuable insights. I appreciate. Thank you very much, Alicia from Village Capital, with the various innovations that you are supporting startups. Thank you very much, Carlos, for the great work you are doing at the International Organization of Migration. Thank you, Mirella, with the 150 employers and other particular participants that are doing a marvelous job in trying to support migrants in the all aspects of labor migration and finding solutions. Thank you, Melissa Jones, for the great work that UNHCR has been doing for the last many years. As you will be able to note, we have a huge challenge of forced displacements happening across the globe. And so, as you say, the call for every one of us to have integrated solutions for these particular populations. So thank you very much. I take this back to Anne to usher in the next panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much
Bye.
to the panel, and we truly appreciate all your excellent input and support. So thank you for all the questions. I see the number of questions is growing on the chat box. We will respond to them even as we go along. So thank you again for your time. So we will move on to the next panel discussion, and we'll be talking about technological innovations for migration. And we'll be introducing the members of the next panel. So
Hello.
from this panel, okay, thank you so much. I think there was a bit of a delay on that, sorry. So from this panel, allow me to just mention that the panel will be moderated by Diana Mejia, who is a senior specialist in financial inclusion at CAF, who is the Development Bank of Latin America. We also have Josefina Caferata, who is the co-founder and CPO at ULS, and Jeff who is the CEO of Turing Space, and as well as Sam Dory, who is the head of operations, Inclusivity Solutions. Thank you so much, and over to you for the next panel discussions. Thank you very much. Maybe we can begin even as we wait on the little bit of the lag. Okay, Diana has joined in. Over to you, Diana.
Hi, thank you, Anne, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. This is a pleasure to be here moderating this interesting panel with very interesting startups that are working to bridge these gaps in the not only financial inclusion but also in health and education and identity for migrants in different regions in the world. As Anne mentioned, my name is Diana Mejia. I work for CAF, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. And at CAF, we are leading an initiative, which is the Financial Inclusion Lab, that helps to bridge those gaps in financial inclusion in the region. And actually, this year's edition was focused on financial inclusion for migrants and their families. And for me, it is also a pleasure to have Josefina Caferata here from Wheels. Wheels was one of the startups, a winning startup that participated in our 2021 edition. So it is a pleasure to see you again, Josefina. So I will first start by asking the panelists to introduce themselves. Just a very, very brief introduction, 1 minute introduction. And we will start with Indira, please. Excuse me, with Sam. Sam, please.
Sure, no worries. Thank you so much, Diana and Seedstars and everyone here. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So my name is Sam Ndori. I head operations at Inclusivity Solutions. Inclusivity Solutions is an insurtech. We are basically a B2B2C kind of insurtech, and we design and deliver embedded insurance solutions for emerging markets. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And please, Josefina, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Diana. It's a pleasure to see you again. Good morning, afternoon, evening to everybody. I am Josefina. I'm the founder of Wheels. It's like Spanglish for a wheel of like the wheel of the car. A startup that is deeply committed to enhancing financial inclusion among mobility key workers through embedded finance. We are already operating in Argentina and moving to other countries very soon, thanks to the help of the last program we participated of Seedstars. We are focusing on B2B2C. In Argentina, we have everything B2C, and we are moving to other countries in Latin America with our B2B focus. Thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you, Josefina. And please, Jeff.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff. I'm the CEO and founder of Turing Space, and we are a trust tech company. So we deal with trust. And I'm calling from Taiwan right now, so it's nighttime right here. So good to see like everyone from different countries. So awesome to have you right here. So what we do, we help like WHO, we help APC to issue paperless digital identity, and we put certificate on the public blockchain for immutability. So that's a thing we are working on right now. Good to see you right here.
Good to see you too. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so in my first question, I would like to ask you, all of you, if you can briefly share. I know that you just shared some of what you are doing with your startups, but if you can elaborate a little bit further on the product or service that your company is offering in relation to migration. How, I mean, in different sectors, because we have here very different case studies in different sectors, such as edtech, fintech, health tech. How do your startup is helping to close these gaps in different sectors and different perspective for migrants and also their families? We will start with Sam. Please, Sam.
Sure. Thank you, Diana, for that. Yeah. So, good question. So, as you know, insurance is one of the areas that have been left behind. Insurance penetration is like what, less than 10% in emerging markets. So this is the sort of our mission. This is the protection gap we want to fill in. And with immigrants or other migrants particularly, what we get to do with them is that with our model, just a bit of context is that we are purely kind of partnership kind of model. So we work with different partners. In this case, they could be fintechs, they could be banks, they could be financial institutions, digital platforms, remittance solution providers. And also on the other hand, we also have insurance companies for the licensing and the about that we get to work together. Now, how we get to do with migrants is that, for example, I just want to share with you a case that we've done in Rwanda, where we've actually partnered with a remittance solution provider called MFS Africa, or what is they rebranded recently, and they're called On Afrique. So what we get to do with them is, as you know, migrants, they need to send money home regularly, but shocks often disrupt this. It could be death, it could be disability, it could be accident, or just illness. We've all come from COVID, and how that hit. And migrants were not left from that as well. And as previous panel mentioned, migrants do send money back home for different reasons. And one of these shocks are different reasons why they send money there. So what we've been able to do is we come in, we partnered with On Afrique. What we've been able to do here, the objective here was more of, how do we improve that resilience of the remittance senders? How do we improve the resilience of even the receivers? So what we were able to do is that we were able to embed insurance product onto their offering, whereby we were able to come up with, say, a hospital cash insurance, which is basically insurance against illness. So in this case, this product was given to anybody who was using the platform for On Afrique to send money outside of Rwanda back to their home or wherever. And for that, they would get this particular insurance product. And also customers had ways to opportunities to double up or even triple their cover based on the remittance amount. And as a result, it was a win-win, I would say, because on one side, the remittance users, in this case, the customers, they were protected, and it attracted even more to feel like, I'm not just sending money, but I'm also protecting myself. And for that reason, there was more loyalty, they were spending more, the consumption of the service was much more. And on the other hand, also the platform provider, in this case, On Afrique, also benefited because in terms of transaction volumes, they increased because they had more people using, more people on the platform, more reason to stick to their platform. And on the other side as well, as we as partners, as an insurtech, we also benefited from it because one, we got more users, and also, of course, in terms of revenue, we did get to achieve a bit of that. So this is just one use case that we do in terms of migrants. And with our solution, it's all embedded, so we can, embed to multiple products that are targeting the migrants. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sam. It's very interesting. And I think that's very interesting that in different regions, we face the same challenges with migrants, and it's very important for us, coming from Latin America and the Caribbean, to learn from those experiences in Africa. And I think it's very interesting to know how do you work in embedding different products, and also thinking of improving financial resilience, not only of migrants, but also their families through remittances and insurance. So thank you. Very interesting, Sam. So please, Josefina, if you can share with us a little bit more on the business model of Wheels.
Of course. In Wheels, what we do is that we gather the information from the trips that an Uber driver does, or a Uber Eats rider. And with this information, we try to understand their behavior and build a behavioral scoring engine system that permits us to know their credit worthiness. So for us, it's very easy to understand every person, not only an Argentinian here in Argentina that already works as an Uber driver for more than 5 years. It also let us get to know a person that just moved to Argentina, or from Venezuela, or any other country. In our user base, we have more than 65% of migrants. So for us, it's very easy to get to know them. Instead of going to a traditional bureau, we use all this information to be able to give them a loan that can be a micro loan that has the due date next week, or a personal loan in installments that have a frequency that is weekly, because the app pays them weekly, or also a loan to get their own car. So that is very important for us, because we can be financially inclusive. We can build financial inclusion for every person, not only a person that already works in a country for more than a lot of years. Our business model, as you asked, is here in Argentina, we have an interest rate-based model for the loans that we give, or also we have subscriptions in order to be able to give them microloans so that they can advance the earnings they are gonna have next week, and this is this can be accessed with a subscription.
Okay, thank you, Josefina. It was very interesting, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the panel, Wheels is one of the winning startups of our financial inclusion lab at GAP. So it is very interesting to know how this business model is evolving and helping these migrants that are gig workers in different countries in South America. So thank you and congratulations, Josefina.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Jeff, please, if you can share with us a little bit more on the business model of Touring Space.
Yeah, sure. So it's really good to know Sam and Josefina about doing like loan, micro loan, digital identity on migrants. I think that's a very important topic. So briefly about Turing, we were just a cybersecurity company back in Taiwan and Japan. So we do a lot of cybersecurity, defense, and then we realized that people, they need to prove something sometime when they go abroad. They need to prove who they are, prove what is the eligibility, where they graduate from. So because we were a student team back then, so we think, okay, are we gonna deal with diploma? So we do diploma on blockchain, and we try to secure diploma, make sure data is private, make sure everything is easily verifiable. And start from diploma, we move on to pursue, I think, 40 to 50 school to join us. And then after that, we realized, actually not only education field, there are so many different verticals and industries that really needs what we do right now. So governments, they need to have the identity verified. they need to have the passport verified, they need to have the driver license verified. In different field, like maybe pets, they need to have the blood type verified. In real estate, need to have the construction verified. So we move on to spread into different kind of fields. And by touching the topic of migrants, because there's an idea like they just came in saying, okay, Jeff, do you know there's a lot of people who need to move from one country to the other country, but in a rush. So they don't really have the time to pick up the paper documents. And when you just move to the other country with just nothing on your hands, it's very, very hard to prove you're a very like eligible citizen back in your original country. It's so hard. Like, you don't have a cards on it. You don't have a healthcare cards. You don't have even a passport. So how can we make identity portable and efficient and easily verify cross-country? I think that's a major mission of Turing Space. So right now we are working with WHO. We are working with, I think, 400 organizations across 10 countries right now to use us. And because we originally started in Asia, but we really want to get into Europe. So that is one of the call to action for today. Like we are reaching out for different partners in Europe because we are pretty new right here. I only do my exchange in Switzerland for 6 months, but I'm foreigner back in Asia. So yeah, so that's about Turing Search. We do trust, we do portable identity, and really want to help migrants to have their identity on hands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. That's very interesting, and I think that's one of the main barriers that migrants are facing today in different regions in the world. And I think that's very interesting to see that you are working on helping them to improve the identity, which is key in order to use financial products and to participate in the economy in all the countries where they are living today. So thank you, Jeff. And I will start asking Sam, considering the diverse landscape of insurance needs globally, how could firms tailor digital insurance solutions to ensure accessibility and relevance, targeting previously excluded populations such as migrants? You mentioned that insurance is a very important but also difficult product to sell, and of course for migrants is a challenge. So if you can share with us some thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Diana. Yeah, so I mean that's constantly the challenge that we're trying to resolve, bridging that protection gap, like I mentioned earlier. And yeah, there are different ways for sure that we've seen work in terms of innovating in this space, and also trying to sort of counter the challenges that the traditional insurance has posed for a long time, which is around affordability, accessibility, and yeah, just the whole point around convenience, and also just the design simplicity, because already a lot of customers do find it, or rather users or potential users find most of the traditional insurance products quite complex, and they don't understand it, like you rightly said. So how do you make it simple? How do you make it affordable? How do you make it accessible? Now, ways of doing that is, one we've seen is that it's partnerships. Through partnerships is that we've seen, and we know for a matter of fact, is that nobody wakes up in the morning saying that I'm gonna go and buy insurance. That's just a fact, right? So how do you get them? But yet on the other side is that insurance is important. It's there to cushion all these risks, and just to provide that resilience that we've been talking about. So how do you make them, how do you make insurance relevant? The only way you can do it is by partnering with the likes of like Josefina's firm, which is into microloans, which is really relevant. Somebody wakes up in the morning and they wanna go get a loan. They wanna change their lives. So while they do so, why don't you also give them insurance at the same time? So that's where we come in. We embed insurance onto that loan. So there's a credit life or whatever. The loan is there or the insurance is there to actually cushion that need, and also to ensure there's resilience, just in case the breadwinner passes on or is ill. That should not take them back to poverty, or that should not make the dependents go back to poverty. That's why embedding is really, really important. So that's what we do. And how do we embed? We also make sure that we design the product. It has to be different from your traditional insurance product for sure. You have to be simple. It has to be simple. It has to be digital through and through, right from onboarding to claim settlement. So no things of asking for papers, go to an office, or do all of that should be found at the comfort of their home or wherever, or the comfort of their mobile device, you know. So that's what we get to do. So that's really important. Number two is you get to also co-create with the partners that you're looking at. So through HCD, you know, human-centered design, because the needs are different. Yeah, so you cannot always throw a blanket solution and assume that you know, with these shelf-ready products, everybody will use them. No, that's not the case. So you got to do an HCD and make sure that you get to know what the needs are and be able to tailor the insurance product to these needs. And lastly, you just make sure that it's seamless. You know, it's part of an existing journey, a digital journey, and it's seamless. So somebody doesn't have to think so hard. It's auto. In other words, it's quite easy for me. Again, also it got to be really affordable, because you need to know what is that price point, what is that sweet spot that will not burden the user, but at the same time, it's able to cushion them and, you know, mitigate the risks that they face on a daily basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. I think that's very interesting, because that's the challenge, right? I mean, to sell those kind of products, and I think it's very important what you mentioned about the embedded products, embedded finance, and also to design a product that takes into account the needs of migrants and the needs of different segments of clients and population, using all these methodologies, as you mentioned, human-centered design, etc., and using digitization, which is also key. So thank you. That's very, very interesting. And following with Jeff, could you please briefly explain the concept of blockchain-based global identity passport, and how do you address concerns about data security and privacy while ensuring seamless verification processes across various international borders?
Yeah, those are really key questions. Usually asked by clients and investors. So, so briefly talk about blockchain 101. I bet like everyone like heard of like blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, this kind of like buzzwords. So if we use blockchain in the right way, blockchain is usually a database that is for trustable data, and for data that put on the blockchain that is not easily changeable. So usually it's immutable. So blockchain is a database that is immutable, that can be stored for usually like long time. So that's how it's different from the typical database. So why we use blockchain to store borderless or portable identity is because to secure a identity, we need to have 4 characteristics. The first one is the source of the identity need to be right? Identity needs came from a nation, came from a large organization. It could came from a like WTO, WHO, United Nations. It came from IOE, like different kind of associations. So the source need to be right. So we need a digital signature on it. So that's the first technology, digital signature. The second one is something we call hash. You might heard from computers 101 class. So hash is like you can put the data in, and then it can make the data not changeable. So for every identity, every certificate, we don't want the data when you give it out, it's easily tampered with, right? You don't want Adobe editor to easily edit that kind of data. So that's the second one. Making data unchangeable, we need a hash. Second technology. Third one, using blockchain is because when we put the data on it, usually the data need to stay there for an entire lifetime. What I mean is, if I issue a driver license for 18-year-old, in Taiwan is that 18-year-old. I think it's different from different countries, but the usual lifespan for people right now is 85-year-old. For a digital content to be stored for 85-year-old is so difficult. Like it's not easily happen. So by putting it on a public blockchain that is having nodes in 100 countries, it making it easier for the data to be stored for a long while. So that's the third reason. The number four, the final reason to use blockchain is we don't want the data to be stored in a localized database. What I mean is, if I told you, okay, right now the 400 organizations in 10 countries, all of them store data in Taipei City, I think everyone would be scared out, like, oh, why, Jeff? Why you put it in Taipei? Taipei might be a safe city. It depends on political situation, but why don't you put it in Tokyo? Why don't you put it in United States? Why don't you put it in Switzerland, right? So if we got to determine which location to put the data, it usually create larger like cost to build a like cross-country database system, and it create much easier chance for the hacker to actually attack the system. So for this four reasons, long-term storage, protect the source, protect the content, and also we don't want to have local address of database. We use blockchain to protect the data. I think that's the first question. Yeah. But the second question, based on the same reason, how do we protect the privacy? Is, do you know, like, I think all of us heard of the word Web3, the third generation web, right? In the past, we have something called Web2. Web2 is like Google, Facebook, the Meta, the Apple. They store 100% of our personal like identity, personal data, confidential data. So they know where we go, where we live, what is our daily behavior. And that should not be allowed, right? In the 2023 and after all, people, individual, we should have the rights that can own our own data, because we are the data producer. We don't want people to get access to our very like private data. So giving back the data ownership to each one of us, and we have the highest control over our own data. I think that is what Web3 brings to us. So to solve that, we need to create a digital identity, the DID, for each of us, and they are granted the highest rights. So we have the data privacy ready, and then we use the technology I just mentioned to do the data protection, and then like people owns their data right after 2023, and that's the thing we are creating right now. Yeah. Thank you. It's a computer science class. Hope you like it.
No, but that's very, very interesting and useful to understand these new concepts that I think that they represent a huge opportunity to many topics, not only identity but also for financial inclusion. And it's very important to understand what is behind blockchain technologies, and also the opportunities that they give in all these different aspects, as you mentioned, on protecting source, and also protecting content, and also this privacy issue, which is very, very important. So thank you, Jeff. And following with Josefina, what was your motivation using driving history as a credit score for financial inclusion of mobility gig workers? Could you share insights into the challenges and opportunities you foresee in integrating embedded finance within the gig economy, particularly for populations with lower levels of formal employment, such as migrants, or in regions with varying regulatory frameworks?
Sure. So our story began when we, as a rental company, saw a big problem. Many gig workers, especially those who come from other countries, often don't have the usual job records or credit scores that banks usually ask for. These make them almost invisible to these banks, blocking their access to important financial services and slowing down their financial growth. We started by giving loans manually, and soon we realized that we could use their driving history as a good alternative to the usual credit scores that already exist in the bank in the banking system. For these workers, then we saw that their driving history shows how good they were at their job, how dependable they are, how committed they are. It's a record of their day-to-day work, and we believe that it is a good way to decide if they should get a loan or not. When we started this, we were moving into an unknown territory. My co-founder, Thomas, he has experience in the startup field, but didn't have knowledge or how to create a lending infrastructure. I am an economist, and I used to work at Accenture, where we developed a lending infrastructure for an important bank here in Latin America. So we started working together, but we noticed that no one before had used driving history to help people financially in the way we were thinking. Not at least in Latin America. There are some cases in Africa and Philippines, but not in Latin America. And this lack of previous examples what was a big challenge for us. We weren't just creating a new product, we were building a completely new way of lending money here in Latin America. Our answer to this challenge was to make a full lending system. We built a full ecosystem that let banks lend money to these workers that didn't have another opportunity before. So we created a new way to understand and support the gig workers, and we don't go to the traditional bureaus to see what's the record of the person, because maybe they don't have them, especially migrants. So we only see what's their behavior with the trips they do, the packages they send, or the food they send you to your house, right? So our card is our behavior scoring engine. That it's a complex tool that looks beyond the usual ways of measuring. It examines the detailed behaviors of a gig worker, giving financial companies a complete and rounded view of a person's trustworthiness and ability to pay back a loan. Also, we leverage everything with AI and machine learning, and we understand with the pass of time how much money we can lend to the person after they pay a loan and ask for another one. By focusing on how people behave, we've opened a new door for financial companies to really understand the special life of situation of the gig workers. For example, as I mentioned before, our loans have weekly installments instead of monthly. That is very used here in Latin America, because the apps usually pay them weekly or sometimes bi-weekly. But so then we tailored our product based on the necessities of the person. Another part that is very important for us is building trust with the communities of people who have moved from other countries. They may feel unsure about formal financial systems because of past experience or lack of understanding. Moving to another country may, for example, here in Argentina, for us it's very useful to pay with QRs, but if you go to the States, you pay with Apple Pay with your phone. So people doesn't feel comfortable with the new ways of paying with a QR here in Argentina. So for us, it's very important to build this trust with the person, and our way of dealing with this with the different users has to be very clear and just understanding and educational. We are not offering just a service. We are building relationships based on trust and mutual respect. I usually talk to our users maybe once per week or twice in order to get to know like what are the things they need in their daily basis. So in this way, we are being we believe that being included financially means more than just being able to access to new services. It's about empowerment, stability, and growth. By using driving history as a way of measure creditworthiness, we are not just providing financial products, we are recognizing the hard work of millions of gig workers and giving them the tools they need for their success. Thank you so much for letting me share my vision.
No, thank you, Josefina. This is very interesting and very important tool for migrants, which mainly are working in informal sectors, and importantly, I mean, to help these gig workers not only to access credit but also to build credit history,
Exactly.
which is key and is one of the main challenges and barriers that we are seeing that the migrants are facing in their host countries. So that's
also
yes.
Let me say that if they move to another country, they may lose their record as a driving, like an Uber driver. And maybe I'm an economist, so I can go to another country if I need to work as an economist in another country. But this person lose everything they've done before. So it is very interesting because we can recover all the information from any time they worked as an Uber driver.
Exactly. That's what's happening, and what we are seeing in Latin America is that, for example, Venezuelans that were
Exactly.
financially included in their country, in Venezuela, they go to another country and they lose everything. I mean, they have no credit history, and it's very hard for them to start building their credit history, to have access to credit. So this is very important. So thank you. Thank you, Josefina. This in the chat we have a comment for Sam from Senen de Souza, who mentioned that as a founder trying to provide financial education services in Pakistan, we tend to think of financial services selling like eating your greens. No one really wants to, but it is very important. We have to find creative ways to to drive home the importance of financial services, which is a huge challenge, especially if the regulations around this space in your country is tight. So this is very important, a very important issue that CNN is rising. So I would like to know if you have some comments, starting from with Sam.
Yeah, no, sure. Thanks, Diana. And yeah, indeed. I mean, like I mentioned in the comment there, I couldn't agree more with Senan. I mean, yeah, true. That's the irony of it, you know. These services are needed. However, nobody wakes up to actually purchase them. However, if it happens, then it keeps them awake at night. So that's the irony of it. Yeah, but of course, I agree that we need to find creative ways of making sure we educate that how important this is, and that requires a lot of effort, really. It requires a lot of collaboration. You cannot win that battle by yourself, for sure. So you need to look at different important stakeholders in this space. You need to look at different influential points or people in the society, the country, and yeah, and it's a journey. So need to look at, you know, who are the different people that you need to partner with, what are the most effective ways of you know, reaching these customers. And we have seen, I mean, maybe Diana, maybe just to mention around the lessons that we've learned is that one, for it to be successful is that you need to have frictionless payments in place. These are recurring payments that are guaranteed, that are, you know, seamless transaction that boost the customer retention, and also it's critical to make that inclusive insurance feasible. And of course, we've seen that embedding works much better. And of course, seamless integration there with insurance to existing products will drive that uptake and revenue growth for sure. And of course, it also improves that customer experience. And constantly is to find the customer feedback. Always have your ears on the ground. I like what Josefina is doing, talking to the customers weekly, just listening to them and then identify what areas needs improvement and constantly improve. And importantly, also what Sinan mentioned is around innovation. So we need continuous innovation, around prioritizing, what our offerings are. We need to ensure consistently that, we're delivering effective solutions to those evolving needs of the customers. And last but not least, is that leadership support. Whoever you're working with need to make sure, you have that buy-in right from the top, all the way through, and ensure that you have the same level of agency, which most of the time you would rarely get because, as you know, it will never be on the same priority list. On your agenda, it could be priority A. On your partner agenda, is probably somewhere down there. But it's important to always, be there, be seen, continue pushing the agenda, never giving up on it, and ensure that everybody in this sale engagement is involved and is engaged, and you drive through. And I believe we're going to win this battle. Thank you.
No, thank you, Sam. And starting again with Jeff, what are for you some of the opportunities and challenges that startups face in designing products and services for migrants, and what support can be offered to mitigate the challenges? And also, I mean, regarding this topic of regulation, that is also key, and that was raised in the question.
Yeah, I think like running the startup, no matter which topic, is usually like challenging if you're on the right direction. So there are so many support like startup founder like us today needs. It could be a team for hiring, it could be fundraising, it could be finding the right customer, doing the right customer interaction and interviews. There are so many topics. To mention the key thing that I think that's challenging for Turing Space is when we, because the thing we're building is not limited to one country, right? You need to be multi-country in order to be useful, right? We need to build this portable identity. We need to be portable to the second, to the third, to the 10, the 20 countries. But each country are totally different, different culture, usually different languages, different people right there. And we don't even have an entity right there. We don't speak their languages. And how can we persuade them to put identity, this very important, very sensitive things onto our system? It doesn't make sense most of the time, right? Like when we go to Switzerland saying, okay, we are GDPR compliant, do you want to put your identity on our system? They will be, oh, Jeff, who you are? Why do we want to do that? So we need to go through this kind of persuasion journey by different route. It could be by the cybersecurity parts, like, okay, for your banking system, for your identity protection system, we, by comparison, we could provide some upgrade things that to tackle with the current crisis right now. Like, okay, you got 1,000 hacks every day. We can reduce it to 10 or even 0. So that could be one thing, like cybersecurity. The second one is, okay, for your identity, if you only limited the access to the local usage, the accessibility and the functionality might be restricted. But if you allow your citizen identity to be useful in other countries and their identity be useful in your countries, it's kind of like exchange of the mutual benefits. So it's kind of like open up the border for country that use our system to be easily connected. So that could be the second thing. The persuasion point could be going paperless. Persuasion point could be going like making things easier, portable, reducing like hands-on works, because usually like when people use our system in the past, let's talk about diploma. When you want to issue 7,000 diploma for a usual like university, it usually take 2 to 4 people, spend you 6 weeks to send those like 7,000 diploma out there, and there's usually some mistake on the paper-based diploma, and it's hard for you to take it back, hard for you to revoke, right? But using our system usually take 15 minutes in the morning by one intern, and everything just get done. So it's kind of like a big jump on efficiency. So back to the thing we are mentioning, like the challenge point is how can we persuade the country that we don't even live in? How can we persuade the people right here? How can we make sure we are trustable and we are the right gateway that can decentralize the storage, but also make sure everything is secure and at the top privacy. So I think that's a challenge. For support, we're just like looking for partners, because even though we are doing cybersecurity a lot, and that is our backgrounds, and we still need people who knows the policy. They can help us understand, okay, Jeff, if you want to go to Switzerland, if you want to go to this and that country, you need to be compliant with the local policy, and they can support us, giving us those knowledge and take us to there. We need support from partners who know the local business. For example, if I want to go to like Josefina's country, maybe collaborating with her on doing microloans could be one good application, combining microloan and identity. So we have two credit history that can be easily combined. If I want to go to Sam's country, we can talk about, okay, how can we provide insurance and credit history along with identity? So we are always looking for partners. That would be the really, really good and important support to me and to us. Thank you.
No, thank you, Jeff. As we're running out of time, I would like to ask Josefina your final thoughts on that, on what are those opportunities and challenges that you are facing in designing these products and services, and what support can be offered to mitigate those challenges for migrants.
Of course. So the first challenge we faced when we started was like, who was going to believe that our scoring engine was trustworthiness? So what we did is that we bought a financial company here in Argentina in order to have like our lab. And since then we have been lending money with a default rate that is very low right now. So we are very happy for that. So the things that we can, like the help we can receive is cheap money in order to be able to keep lending to our users, right? Nowadays, we are working with some banks in Peru, Chile, and Colombia in order to test our technology. And the problem is that, okay, but how can we believe that your scoring engine is trustworthiness? So what we do is that we start with little loans, microloans maybe, so that the loss is not so high. And since with these experiments that we start, we continue to grow our the amount of the loan. So that is our main challenge, but our scoring engine already has almost 2 years, and the default rate keeps being low, so we are very happy for that.
Okay, thank you, Josefina, and thank you to all of you. I think that this is very, very interesting to see how startups are helping to bridge gaps in different sectors to attend migrants' needs with different products, with tailored products that are making difference and making a huge difference in different regions in the world. So thank you, Sam, thank you, Josefina, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Everyone. Bye.
Thank you to you all. I think this panel discussion from the startups has been very, very engaging, and we are very grateful. Thanks to Diana, thanks to Sam, thanks to Josephine, and thanks to Jeff for the very interactive conversation, and we really appreciate. I know that we are almost there when it comes to time, and allow me just to share a few thoughts on how the event has been and what are some of the next steps from our side as well. So first of all, I think one of the key factors that has come across, or one of the key messaging has come across, is the need for regulation. And this came through the first panel discussion, where there was more push for advanced regulation or enhanced regulation, especially when it comes to promoting migrants' rights and especially financial inclusion of migrants. So I think that is a conversation that we can definitely keep going as well. I think another conversation that came out very clearly is the need for enhanced coordination and partnerships, not only among government organizations, but among non-government organizations and startups as well. You know, when we begin the conversation, we get to learn from each other, and we can actually draw great partnerships, even from the operations one to another. So I think that was a very key theme that has come from these International Migrants Day celebrations as well. I think another intervention is that came through is the need for need-based interventions, especially targeting migrants, which is a very special classification or category of people, where we are looking at what can be offered to them that is simple, that is accessible, and that is affordable. And I think that's something that Sam from the previous panel had really shared about, and that is something that we continue to push for, and we continue to look forward to the discussions on. I think one of the other key themes that came really strongly in these discussions is the need to change the narrative. I know that migration has been seen as a taboo topic, and the cost, as was shared by Melissa in the first panel, the cost of migrants has been seen in the negative. But I think we continue to sensitize each other, we continue to have other discussions so that we change the narrative that actually migrants provide great benefits economically, socially, politically, and culturally to our countries and communities, as was shared in the panel facilitated by Jamin as well. So I think we are looking to change the narrative even as we go along. And we said that actually over 280 million migrants across the world. That means you and I have a very high likelihood of being migrants as well. And we continue to contribute to our countries and the communities that we live today. So I think that was a key narrative that came across. And as Seedstars, we continue to push the migration agenda forward. We are looking forward, and we shared some of the migration programs that we are working on. And this year's theme, just to remind us, was promoting tech solutions for migrants, advancing innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology. And I think all those three key themes have been featured on these discussions. We have seen how to advance technology, how to advance innovation, entrepreneurship, and as well how we can link that to the migration conversation. So thank you very much for that. And so we keep the conversation going, especially in our social media. We do have migration programs that are ongoing. So if you hear there's a call for application or any other form of partnership with Seedstars, we are very, very welcome. We will be hosting other events in the future. So keep looking out and to see what else we're doing in the migration space. And we're very, very grateful. We cannot end by thanking the team that has supported here to make sure that this program went successfully. We really appreciate the panelists. That's Alicia Sonson from Village Capital, Mirella Stoya from IOE, Carlos Sanguiteni from IOM, as well as Melissa Jones from UNHCR in the first panel that was moderated by Jamin Kuswenya. Thank you very much. She's our migration expert in residence for Africa. And then we had the second panel that was moderated by Diana Mejia that hosted Josephine Kafreta from Mules, Jeff Hu from Turing Space, as well as Sam Dory from Inclusivity Solutions. And we saw the startup perspective of how we can continue to provide solutions to migrants in an emerging market and as well as emerging space. And we also have various participants in the introductory conversation or in the chat box. We had participants from Latin America. We have some from Africa, some from Middle East and North Africa, some from Asia, some from Europe. We are very, very grateful that you are able to join us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you are joining us from. There's Canada as well. We are very, very grateful. Thank you so much for your time. There is also the team from Seedstars. You got to meet our co-founder, Alize, and we really thank her for her time and for the ability to join in this conversation as Seedstars, providing a strategic approach. And we are saying as Seedstars, we are moving along with a migration agenda. And we are really looking forward to what we can do in this migration space as we go along and create other partnerships, not only with startups, but also with other organizations in the migration agenda as well. We had an army of Seedstars team that also helped, that was led by Liz Jones. She's our program manager, and we really thank her for that, as well as everyone who participated in this. So for all the panelists, all the participants, all the organizers, we say thank you very much. So from here, we close out this session, but we want to appreciate everyone. I know that some of your responses were not noted, were not responded to, but we will do our best to respond to them as well. So this particular session was also shown on YouTube. So in case you want to refer, you will also be able to share that, and you can also be able to not only on the Zoom link, but also was shared on YouTube. So if you have any other connections, you have Seedstars on LinkedIn and all our social media platforms, feel free to engage us. So with that, I say thank you and have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good evening. Happy International Migrants Day from Seedstars. Thank you.